How's it, guys? Caudle here. Welcome to another context session where I'm going to go over Learning Unit 5. As you are aware, I don't go over all the work. I give you a highlight package. I don't even do all the learning units because we simply don't have enough time for that. You have my email address there. Please feel free to send me, drop me a mail if you've got any questions, anything you're not sure of, and I'll reply and explain stuff to you. Even if time allows, I can even meet up with you in the online space to have a chat. Just something before I get into Learning Unit 5, and while I'm speaking, I'm just going to drop the unit outcomes so you can see them. The assignment is due, if I'm not mistaken, sometime next week. Please have a look at the assignment if you haven't yet. I teach the same course in the full-time space, and I know my full-time guys are suffering with it. There is a long weekend coming up, so if you haven't started the assignment, please do yourself a favor and have a start and have a go at it. At least read through it. Also, please keep in mind I have uploaded some ice tasks for you guys. Please do those ice tasks. I will talk on another occasion about a mock test, and I know you guys don't write tests, but yeah, I've set a mock test which I think you might want to complete in preparation for the exams when we get to that stage. And I'm also going to set a mock exam paper that you can write under exam conditions to get you used to the sit-down closed book exams that you will be facing. Again, so tonight we're going to talk about revenue models and discuss what they are and how they work. I'll do about 3 of those learning unit outcomes tonight. Okay, so a revenue model is basically how you're going to make money. It is how do we gain income from our sales, which is the definition of revenue, as you are aware from accounting. And revenue models basically identify how we're going to get money, from where is it going to come, and how much money should we be able to get from which stream of income, because you could have several different ways of making money. Not only is it important for an entrepreneur to know this, because it tells the entrepreneur if they are actually going to make money. Any entrepreneur wants to know, is my idea viable and am I going to make money? If she wants to go to the bank or to a financier, they can take the revenue models as part of their plans and explain to the possible investor how this is going to work and why this is a sound investment, how the money is going to work. Questions that we have to ask in terms of getting to a revenue model is, how much are my customers willing to pay? In other words, is this a product that customers are willing to pay an additional amount for, an excessive amount, or is this a high quality product? And please remember, products don't always have to be high quality. There's a massive market for cheap, lower quality products. China is built on cheap, lower quality products, and if you don't think there's a market for it, take this long weekend, go to in your local city, go to a Chinatown, walk through there, and see how many people there are. Those people are not there because they're looking for the highest quality. They're there because it's the correct priced product. How many customers do you need? Is this the type of product that you need to sell one a month? If you look at high-end motor vehicles or something like a swimming pool, even topical at the moment, solar panel systems. If you've got a system that's going to cost in excess of 100,000 rands for your customer, and it's going to take 2 days to install, you're probably only selling about 5 to 10 of those per month. But if you've got a low-end cheap product, you need to have many more customers, especially if your profit margins are small. What is the revenue that you can actually generate, so that you have a sense of how much money can we have? And if we choose, and we're going to look at different revenue models, if we choose more than one model, sorry, what are the different streams going to generate? So, and on that topic, some companies will have one model, and that is how they'll make um, their money. Others will have a combination. So the models I'm going to show you now um, are different ways of making money, but it's not necessary that you choose one. You could choose a combination, and most companies will have some kind of a combination. The simplest form of a revenue model is unit sales revenue model. It is simply making money by the number of items sold. The more you sell, the more money you make. And most retail businesses work on this models. Um, and what you're selling includes tangible goods. So, say for example, groceries, physical things that you can touch, as well as intangible things like services, like insurance, for example, or like a hotel room or an Airbnb type of setup. And there are nuances within unit sales revenue model. The razor blade model is the one that many people like to use as a nuance. I've tried to remember, I think it was Gillette started this, and all razor companies do this today. And it's simply a question of you sell the razor very cheaply. So the actual instrument is sold very cheaply. The expensive part are the blades. So, because once they have your razor, they must buy the blade. And that's where you then make a lot more unit sales, is by selling these blazers. Next one is the advertising revenue model. So this is a way that we make revenue through advertising products and services. Um, this mostly works in the digital world, and we also call it promoted content. Sorry, I need to cough. So traditionally, we would simply advertise products and see how much we can gain through advertisements. These days, it's the actual advertisement of the product itself has become a way of making money. So it's pay per click, those type of things, the Google adverts. That's part of this model where you actually make money by advertising goods for the company. Traditionally, newspapers and those type of things used to do this, but today with the digital world being so much bigger, this is where the advertising revenue model has ended. Sorry, having some problems there with my slides. Data revenue model. This is basically people that collect and sell data. Now, there's a very simple way to do this. Data is a thing that is valuable to people that want to promote their product, and they will pay for it. I just before I started, there was a spam call that came through, and somewhere that person has bought my telephone number on a list from somewhere. It could be as bad as your cell phone provider selling your details, but it could also be something as simple as I have filled in a entrance form into going into a building, and they've asked me for my name, my surname, my telephone number, my email address, who I'm visiting, time in, time out. That cell phone number and that email can easily be harvested and sold on to other companies. That's why I'm very inclined when I go into a building. I don't give my real email address. I don't give my real cell phone number. I swap numbers around. It's just a way to try to protect myself. But it obviously, that's at the most basic part. Data brokers collect data everywhere. That's how Facebook makes money. That's how Google makes money. They collect your data. You all know how the adverts work and how adverts change. But it goes further than that. They sell your information, your preferences, and so on to other companies that use it in all types of interesting ways to not only sell to you, but to sell to the greater public because they want to know what the population looks like and what the population likes. The intermediation revenue model. Um, this is the middleman. This is the guy that organizes transactions between buyers and sellers. Um, you can see it as a supermarket, for example. In theory, they buy from a farmer and they sell to a end user. But this goes much further than that. This is an actual broker. And so a person, for example, if we're going to use the example I just used, it's somebody that travels to farms, buys up from all the farmers, and then resells it at market to the large supermarkets. Um, so it's the classic middleman, and there's a whole lot of entrepreneurial models around it. I mean, I've met guys that you tell them what car you want, if you're in the second-hand car market, and they trace a car for you, and they will then have that car and sell that car for you to you at a price that you're happy with. So they will trawl the second-hand car dealers until they find the car what you're looking for at the correct price for you. Most travel agencies do the same way. If you're booking a trip, I know we all tend to just book our trips online and so on, but when I used to travel overseas quite a bit, I used to work through an agent, and 9 times out of 10, she could get me a better price than I could find anywhere online. And that's a classic intermediation revenue model that she has. And this was a private lady. She didn't work for an agency. She used to work for an agency, but she worked from home. And I would contact her and say to her, Suzanne, I'm going on a trip, um, and this is where I'm going. These are my dates. All my dates are not fixed, but I roughly want to travel at this time. See what you can do. And she would organize my flight tickets, my hotel bookings, and all that type of thing for me. Licensing is another revenue model. Um, this is where people develop something and give a license for somebody else to use it. Um, two two simple examples: apps. So people develop apps and then they allow companies such as Apple to roll these apps out on the iPhone, and they then pay the developer a certain amount per user that then downloads it um, to use it. Then there's all types of other things, psychometric testing, for example. You get psychometric tests that you can buy a license to use the test, and you either buy a license to use as many tests as you want to, or you buy a license that every time that you use a test, you need to fill it in um, onto a computer program. The computer program counts because it generates the results, and it counts the amount of tests that you do, and then you pay for the amount of tests as franchising you should be quite familiar with. Basically, an owner of a business sells the rights to um, practice that business in another location, and helps you with all types of things, from training your staff through to supplying you with goods, sometimes even financing that you don't have to go to a bank for, and they will finance it, and as part of your payment plan, you will pay back the loan um, that you've made to start the business. Subscription revenue model is another one. Um, the subscription model used to be like for magazines and so on. So you could subscribe and they deliver a newspaper to your house on a daily basis, or magazine weekly or monthly. You can still do that online. I'm not even sure if they still deliver newspapers and stuff to your house. But there's a lot of other companies that are using the subscription model. I recently bumped into a birding app. Yes, I'm that person that does birding. And there's a new birding app in South Africa that actually works on a subscription model. And I found it strange. And when I started reading about it, I found that there are a number of apps that work on a monthly subscription. I've got a weather app, for example, that I work on an annual subscription. But I didn't realize there are apps that are monthly subscriptions. Yeah, so and strange apps. I mean, a birding app you wouldn't suspect is something that would work on a monthly subscription. But yes, subscription revenue model. Then we have the professional folks. So these guys provide professional services on a so-called time and materials contract. And this is anybody from a lawyer through to a doctor, through to an architect, that charge you for the professional service that they render, but they charge you for the time that it takes them. So if you go to an architect, they'll say, okay, I'm going to charge you this amount to draw up your plans. And actually what they're doing is they're saying, oh, well, okay, it'll take me X amount of time to draw these plans, therefore I'm going to charge you that. The second last, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, utility and usage. This is simple as you use. Your mobile cell phone is probably the most popular one of these, but our dear friend Eskom, electricity is also one. You pay per the amount that you use. And keep in mind, none of these are really a pure system, because you'd remember when I spoke about licensing, I said psychometric test, you pay as you use. So it's almost a amalgamation of that and this one to get to that type of model. So these models, you shouldn't see them as the gospel, but these give you a sense of what models they are. And the last one is an interesting one, and we're going to delve deeper into this, the freemium revenue model. This typically is where they give you some kind of a basic service, and the basic service is for free. But the moment that you want more advanced services, then you've got to pay more. For example, Adobe, the PDF program. If you want to be able to edit PDFs and do all types of other interesting things with PDFs, you need to pay. I happen to have on my work laptop the paid Adobe version, and there's a lot of other stuff you can do. Everything from just changing it into a Word document down to saying, take these two documents, put them together, and make me a PowerPoint slideshow out of them. So it's quite powerful, but then you're paying where other people are using it for free. And the whole idea of the freemium is, in many cases, it's simply to get you to want to use the program. And as I said, we're going to delve a little bit more into generating revenue from free. Skype, for example, also uses such a model. We all know Skype. Most of us have used Skype, but I never knew there's a thing called Skype Out. You Skype out, you pay additional, and that allows you then to make telephone calls to landlines and cell phones instead of phoning a person just on Skype. You can actually then contact a person on the landline. So there's two key ways how the freemium model works. And I just want to say something. I've gone through those 10 or 11 different revenue models. To me, when we start looking at exams, when I see 10 different revenue models, I see a question popping out there immediately. I see a question where they ask you either to describe one and give examples, or they give you a case and they say what models are being used here, or they ask you to describe, say, 2 or 3 of them. So you're going to have to know those. And then something when they go into one in depth like this one, this is also nice. This would also form a nice question. But okay, so the freemium, or generating revenue from free, there's two ways you can do. Direct cross subsidy is the first one. So in essence, what they're doing here is they're making you pay more for a product, because your payment is actually subsidizing something else. So when you go into a cell phone contract, they give you a cell phone in most cases for free. If you take a big enough contract, they'll give you a cell phone for free, and they'll give you the latest iPhone for free if you sign the right contract. But we all know behind the scenes we're actually not getting that cell phone for free because the price of the cell phone is included in the contract. It's hidden in the contract. So the telephone calls that you're paying for, supposedly paying for, the contract price, is subsidizing or cross-subsidizing your cell phone. And in many cases, to be quite honest, with cell phones, it's much more expensive to do it that way. If you go buy your cell phone, cash, or you use your previous cell phone and you take out a new contract, it works out much cheaper because you're not cross-subsidizing the cell phone. The other way to generate revenue from free is so-called multi-party markets. In a multi-party market, you are, and that's what I described earlier, you are giving certain people free access and the other parties. So it's almost like the Skype outing, but this is more complex. So for example, on Airbnb, I can look for any place to stay for free. So I'm using Airbnb for free. The person who's advertising and selling the accommodation, they paying for the service, right? So I get it for free, the one user, but the other, so I'm the one party in the multi-party market. So they're marketing, Airbnb markets to me because they want me to use the tool. And because I'm using the tool, they can market the tool to people that are renting out accommodation because they can say to them, we've got so many users. And those people then pay. So one side's free, the other side's is a paying side. Another classic example, and I think this is the one that the textbook uses, is dating websites. Men pay, women don't pay. Why? Because men are more desperate than women, traditionally. So there's a whole host of these type of things. Craigslist, you could search for free, but you pay if you advertise. The key thing here is two things, mostly web-based. It works very well for web-based companies. You do see it in the physical world as well. For example, children under 12 eat for free, or entrance is free for children under a certain age, but there's always going to be accompanying adult. So that adult is going to pay. And then the issue is you've got to be careful that, especially in a web-based type of thing, that the people that are using it for free are not overusing their free, and you as the premium paying customer is not getting proper access. Worst case scenario of that is for children under 12 eat free, but the child under 12 is eating 3 times what the parent that's paying for is eating. Okay, so those are your different ways of generating revenue, and then the different ways of taking revenue from free. You need to be aware of revenue and cost drivers. You need to be aware of your costs, because the other side of revenue is the cost. And you need to, as we know what's driving our revenue, we also need to know what are driving our costs. And I'm not going to go into detail on this one, but the key things are your fixed and your variable costs. You'll remember those terms from accounting. But yeah, please have a look at that so you understand how cost is driven and what happens to cost. Pricing is a very, very tricky thing for entrepreneurs to look at. It's very difficult for entrepreneurs to understand how to price their product, especially new entrepreneurs or new to market. Even if you're a seasoned entrepreneur, if you're entering a new market, it's not always easy to determine what you're going to charge. It's very difficult to get to a cost price, to figure out what's your cost or even your break-even point. But once you're there, now you must determine how much profit will you take. to get to a pricing strategy, and that can be difficult, because you need to look at the competition, but you also need to plan the strategy. So let's have a look at a couple of these pricing strategies. So the first one is competition-led pricing. It's simply when the entrepreneur goes and they say, okay, so what do these products sell for in the market? And they're basically following the competition. And it's not difficult to find out the competition's prices. In many cases, it's a question of phoning them and asking them for a price list. Now, you can't easily do that with, say, if you are Checkers and you want to find out what Woolworths are charging. You can't exactly phone Woolworths, but you can look on their websites, on the online shopping sites. But there are also companies, I'm trying to remember the name, Nielsen is one, for example. They do surveys. They actually go into shops, write down the prices, and you can buy those price lists by geographical area. So obviously, if you're staying in Gqeberha, for example, the pricing there is going to be different to a place like Springbok in the Northern Cape. So you want to get the pricing for that area the geographic area that you're in. The second one is customer-led pricing. Simply ask the customers, what are they prepared to pay? So do surveys with customers, chat to customers, and say to them, and listen to your customer. When your customer keeps saying, geez, your products are very, very cheap, it may be time to slightly increase your prices. If they say, oh, you're really expensive, and you've looked at the competitors' prices and you know you're charging more than them, you need to consider, why are you charging more? And if you've got a good reason, great, charge more. Explain it to the customer. Then you've got something like a loss leader, where you're selling a product at below what it costs you. Now that sounds counterintuitive. Why would I want to sell a product at a loss? Well, quite simply, there's two key reasons. The one reason is again the razor blade example. You give a person a product that they need something else, and you charge them a lot of money for the something else. These Nescafe coffee machines, for example, when they started, they simply gave them away. And Nescafe coffee machines are still not that expensive because they make the money on the pods. Another reason why you could do a loss leader is what they do in retail. So they advertise a product at a great price, and it's really cheap, and you go to the shop to buy that product, but you walk up with 4 or 5 other products. Many of your grocery specials are run on that sub. I'm not saying they're making a loss on all of them, but yeah, they make losses to encourage you to come to the shop, and then they sell other products to you as well. Then the introductory offer, I hinted to that when I spoke about Nescafe. So you can offer products for free. So my wife, for example, uses a strange, it looks like a piece of paper that she uses in the washing machine, and that's actually the soap. And she was given that for free as a sample, and we've never seen this stuff before. Tried it, and now that's the only one she would use, and she would never have used it, wouldn't even have known about it if she hadn't been given that free sample. Other pricing strategies, skimming. If you've got a new product and you come into the market and you're the only person that has it, you can charge a lot of money for that product and skim that market until competitors come in. Also, if you know it's going to be a product that lots of people want, think of the latest iPhone and think of what the cell phone companies charge for their iPhones when they've just launched. 6 months later, you're paying a completely different price. Skimming the market, and they'll tell you straight in their adverts, there are only 500 of these coming in. So if you want to be the person that has the new iPhone, they're going to skim you. Psychological pricing, the 99 Rand example, or the 9.99 Rand example. And I know people say, I don't fall for that because I round it up. There have been numerous studies and numerous tests that show on a deep psychological level, 9.99 has an influence as opposed to 10 Rand. It's just how we put together, how our brains function. And even though you're consciously saying, okay, so that 9.99 is 10 Rand, the 9.99 in your subconscious still makes you think it's cheaper. Fair pricing is where you want to be, which is a price that you want to pay and that the customer wants to pay. So there's a point where you are satisfied because you're making enough profit, but your customer is also satisfied because they're paying a price that they feel, yes, this is a fair price that the vendor's charging me. And lastly, bundled pricing, where we package a couple of things together and you get a better price, or you believe you get a better price. And sometimes bundle pricing isn't better, but you believe you get a better price. And if you're doing fair pricing, then your bundle price should be better. Because of where I stay out on a small holding. I've got to do a lot of DIY and handyman stuff around the place because it's far from town and it's difficult to get people to come here. So I own quite a lot of tools. And Inco, for example, is an electric tool company, battery operated tool company. And they've gone to the point where they sell the battery separate from the tool. So you buy a tool, but you don't get a battery with the tool. You need to and then every so often they do a bundle where they do, say, 2 batteries, a charger, and the tool. And those prices, they're always better. And I've actually bought some tools because I'm thinking, oh, I do sort of, my drill is okay, but I'm going to need a new one. So I buy this one, I get the 2 batteries included in it. And if I look at the overall price, I'm actually getting those batteries really, really cheaply. And then I bought the stuff because of that bundled pricing. So bundled pricing does work. Okay, folks, that's it from my side. Please go through the work in your textbooks. Make sure you look on VC Learn and ask me your questions. Please feel free to drop me an email and ask me what you need to know. I'm happy to engage with students. And guys, please, please, please don't forget to go look at that assignment if you haven't yet. As I say, even if you're planning to do it like the night beforehand, not a very good idea. Just go read it at least so that you know what's waiting for you, because I think if you read it, you'll realize this is not one of those I can do on the night before. Okay, guys, that's Carl signing off. Hope to hear from you soon with your questions, and good luck with those assignments. Cheers, guys.